Let's call the January 26, 2021 Planning and Zoning Board to order. And do we have a confirmation of quorum, please?
Yes, you have quorum, sir.
Okay, could we all stand for the invocation and the pledge? Dr. Hobbs, will you?
Yes, let us pray. Our Father, we come in the name of Jesus to say thank you. Lord God, we thank you for this day, for truly this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, we pray as a nation that we will humble ourselves and turn from our wicked ways, Lord God, and seek your face, Lord, that we may hear from heaven, that you may heal our land, Lord God. Father, we ask for your divine wisdom in this meeting and everything we do, that you would be pleased with, Lord God. And we ask your divine protection over every family that's represented here today. In our Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hobbs, very moving. Thank you. All right, do we have an approval of the December 22nd meeting minutes? Do we have any questions or comments on it?
Nope.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of December 2020. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's see. Public hearing case 2021-01-002. April?
Good evening, Chairman and Board. This first item is a pretty straightforward one, I believe. The applicant, he was approved for a site plan sometime back last year for 1919 McCoy Road. It's a retrofit of the building for a restaurant. He has since opened, he's complied with all of the requirements of the site plan approval he received. The difficulty is that one of the conditions of approval of the site plan was that there be no alcohol sales on the property. He did agree to that at that time, but with his business, he found that people would like to have beer or wine with their food. So he has been required to seek your approval to remove that condition of no alcohol sales. Staff is supporting that request because they are seeking a 2 COP permit from the state. And with the 2 COP permit, it only allows beer or wine for consumption on premises. So it's restricted to that. You don't have harder alcohol there. So based on that, in addition to that, the code does not prohibit that type of permit for alcohol at his location either. So those two things, staff is recommending approval.
Okay, do we have the applicant here?
I do not see the applicant here.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the public that would wish to speak for or against this? Seeing none, we'll close the public side and come back to the board for conversation and or a motion.
My primary question is, why was it, I guess, stressed that they weren't applying for a alcohol permit in the first go-around?
I don't know specifically. I think at the time, if I could hypothesize, at the time they were going through the site plan process, their focus was on getting the restaurant business open and running. So they really wanted to do that, and they just didn't think about the alcohol sales. Quite frankly, my opinion, and it's only my opinion, I think that the applicant was trying to be amenable to the board to agree to a site plan condition so he could get the site plan approved. Now that's just my opinion since he's not here to address that. Based on the application material that they submitted, one of the statements was that they've had requests from patrons that they'd like to have a cold beer with their spicy food, is what they wrote. So I think maybe just things have changed since they anticipated the business opening, and they would like to be able to provide that for people at the restaurant who would like to have that.
Well, it's supposed to be milk you drink with it, not cold.
Yeah, I have. You had hot food. Beer
I
was
don't
not.
know. I think-
Didn't we as a board approve this?
No,
I think we did, didn't we?
We approved the site plan.
Through the
yeah.
site plan,
Right, we
yes,
did.
with one of the conditions being no alcohol sales, and he agreed to it at that time.
And was there anything that anybody recalls why we put no alcohol sales on?
I don't recall
I think it
anything.
was standard, because he didn't ask for it.
All right.
He just was opening up a luncheonette.
Okay.
Yeah, just so long as there wasn't any resistance to it. That's the thing I was trying to figure out, because I don't remember there ever really be much discussion on that issue.
There wasn't, just from my recollection, it came up towards the end. And so I could understand, if an applicant just really wanted to get their site plan approved and, that it kind of struck me that maybe he was agreeing to it because he was that close to approval. But there's nothing in the code that would prohibit this type of permit. I think that there might be some concern if there was, that there's a 4 COP which allows liquor sales, no restrictions. There's a special license for restaurants, which is a 4 COP SRX. The reason that that's usually important is due to distances to churches or certain types of establishments, that the code is very restrictive. But for a 2 COP, it's not. So there's no violation with the 2 COP, and it does just limit to beer and wine.
Sir, you raised your hand. Did you have a question?
Yeah, you were just talking about Legionnaire, right?
Oh, so you're the applicant?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am.
All right. This
Come on
is-
down. Give us your name and address and tell us what you're trying to achieve here.
Well, I'm trying to reverse the previous decision on the
Can you state your name?
request. Excuse me? Oh, Rick Floyd.
And your address, please, sir.
Address is Cinder Lane Parkway in Orlando.
Okay? Go right ahead.
Well, you have questions, right? So you have questions?
Well-
I understand I came here to answer some of the
In
questions
the
that you may have.
beginning, when we approved this the first time, why was there not a request at that?
The owner was a little misinformed. Because he could have like a license and not serve it. But he decided that it would be better for him not to have a license at all. Which the partner got into trouble with that because there's a lot of customers that do ask for a beverage with the food. The food is kind of spicy.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for this gentleman?
I didn't really understand that explanation.
They just didn't, in my opinion, they probably didn't focus on it at that time. They were led to believe to go a different direction. Now they're finding out they want beer and wine.
Which probably would have been approved back then.
Probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep. Good.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and we don't have anybody in the audience that is here to oppose it,
Nope.
so.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept pursuant to Code SEC 5479F4 of Belle, I'm reading the right one, yes? Let's see, Belle Code having been met to approve the variance, requested variance on a proposed amendment to a previously approved site plan submitted by the applicant, Legionnaire Sojama, located at 1919 McCoy Road, Belle, Florida, 32809, also known as parcel ID 3023-0000-00-017.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's easy.
Okay, April, case number 2021-01-005.
Yes, Chairman. This application is a request for a variance that would allow a structure to be located within the required setback from the normal high water elevation. This property is 3625 Water's Edge. The work on this property has already been done, and the applicant is trying to bring it into compliance. So they have submitted to the building department plans for approval. And when I did the zoning review, I did find that based on the code definition of a structure that is part of the primary building and then a roofed structure for the patio, it has to meet that 50-foot setback from the normal high water elevation, which is not in compliance with the way that it's constructed. So the request, we've seen some of these come before the board before, but it does still require a variance. And staff is recommending approval of this application based on the applicant's submittal identifying that they're in harmony with the rest of the neighborhood. They're not going out any further than what the footprint of the house's original existing patio was. So they're not seeking to go closer to the water. They've enclosed and roofed a portion of the existing property. Based on the fact that that is the case and it's harmonious with the neighbors, staff recommends approval, and the applicant's representative, Mr. Anderson, is here to address any questions that you might have.
Mr. Anderson, come on down. State your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Richard Anderson, 732 Cheviot Court, Apopka, Florida.
So was this enclosure, how long ago was this enclosure done?
About 11 years ago.
We're talking about house, correct?
No. In the rear of this house is a covered porch.
Okay, patio.
Right.
I got you.
And let me just give you some quick background on this. Mr. Rosenberg, elderly gentleman, I say elderly, he's about my age, but anyway,
I know him.
he's in the process of, with COVID, it kind of scared him, and he wants to make sure that his estate is in order for his heirs. And he did some work during COVID on an interior renovation. We're in the process of getting the permits and after the fact permits, and we're going through that process, and your astute city planner picked up that, in fact, there may have been about, I think it's an 8-foot encroachment to the mean high water mark. It was interesting, even our surveyor didn't pick it up the first time. We went out, even have a letter from him saying it was okay. So anyway, long story short, he's trying to get that corrected. And as you can see from the depiction from the property appraiser's office, it's kind of a unique situation in that the canal bisects his property on the northwest corner, and it actually, if you look at the footprint, he put the building, the house when it was built, goes as far forward as it could go. And with that, the canal, the way it abuts his property there, as you can see, there is one corner that is encroaching on that. As I said, it was done about 11 years ago. Never had any complaint. It was just him trying to make sure he's doing everything right and want to make sure that we've got everything taken care of. If I showed you some pictures, two wrongs don't make a right, and I've been in this business long enough, I understand that. But if you look at the adjacent properties, you can understand why he thought that he was okay with what he was doing there. In the one picture, you can actually see the neighbor's boat dock, and it shows you the angle that the canal actually goes up on his property there, on that property line. So we're just asking that you grant the variance, and as I said, it's been in place 11 years. I showed you some, gave you some documents from 2011 aerial from the property appraiser's office as well as the current ones to show you what we have there. But we just ask that you grant this request, and we are in the process of making sure all the building permits and going through all of that right now. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
I bet you didn't call her an astute planner when she came to you on this, did you?
Might have been a
Miss
different
Fisher and
word.
I go way back. I've always called her an astute.
The other words you had.
That was just you, Randy.
She's always been very, very good at her job.
Yes, that's kind.
Thank you, thank you.
I know when I've been in that position, I've had a few choice words. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Anderson?
Well, I got a couple. One is that it shows on the survey, it shows that the normal high water elevation is 86.9. That is what is called the normal high water elevation in the Belle Isle Code, but that's according to NAD 27 datum. We're using the 88 datum now, which is almost a foot different. So, and so the actual normal high water elevation now is 86.48, I believe. And according to the current datum, I see that the survey was done just last year, so the surveyor messed up the datum on that. That should get you a little extra distance. So you should have a talk with your surveyor. And the other thing is that I was under the impression that the setback line from the water is perpendicular to the water, not parallel to the property line. What do you say
You
to?
can look that up. I'm not sure.
I don't think that there's any clear definition.
I'm not familiar with
in
one.
that, on that setback, but.
I could certainly not argue either way. As I said,
Yeah. And, you know, on that basis, you know, if it is perpendicular to the water, then your setback is considerably shorter than what you're asking for. And so that's where the technical issue comes in.
I'm not sure on this case, but I know I'm on a canal and my line goes to the center of the canal.
But that's just property line, yeah. That's not the same as a setback line.
If my property line is the center of the canal, it's from that.
No, the setback line from the water, from the normal high water line is from the normal high water line, not from the property line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, in the front yard, it kind of works like that because the setback is from the right-of-way, which is the property line. But when you're against the water line, it's a different line than the property line.
I got you.
I can double check that in the code. However, I've never seen a delineation for that. So,
Yeah, I've looked at
Yeah.
this many times and I don't believe it really
Okay.
explains it.
so in my background, if that is not clearly spelled out, then you would conservatively defer to the most beneficial interpretation for the applicant. The reason for that is because, and Dan could clarify this better than me.
Yeah, I was going to say this might be an attorney question.
It can be challenged.
Well, I mean, that's generally a rule, is if it could have two readings, different interpretations, and it's not clear either way, that you sometimes, you know, they use the expression, tie goes to the runner. In this case, the runner is the property owner, because the code is a restriction on the property and the property's rights. So if it's not clear, you tend to give them the benefit of the doubt on it, but anyway.
Okay. So I guess that falls in the category of another point of the code that needs to be cleaned up.
I think there are several.
And I apologize for bringing this to your attention.
Okay. Do we have it?
And is this setback is to the roofed structure that is open porch, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, because it's, the drawing is not particularly clear on that.
Yes, so when I verified this information, I actually measured, that's how we came up with the 8.31 variance needed. We took in account, so the house itself meets the setback requirement. It's only the roofed patio, if you will. And so we subtracted the difference of the encroachment of that from the 50-foot setback, which is how we arrived at the 8.31 variance needed. And it's hard, it can be, I can't read that looking at this, but I had to blow this up to be able to read the measurement so we could get the variance request. Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Any other questions from Mr. Anderson?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the general public? Seeing none, we'll close that, come back to the board. Comments?
Aside from the fact that I think that the measurement is all wrong, we have to, like, say the tie goes to the runner. Looking at the other homes in this area, and also recalling most of our rear setback questions, it seems like this is a very common thing that occurs on canals.
Yes.
Looking just at the neighboring properties, I think that some of those, the house proper is actually closer than what he's asking for on some of the neighboring properties. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just let this one go through.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, I move that criteria of section 50-102A6, 7, and D1, and section 4264 of the Belle Isle Land Development Code having been met, to approve a structure to be located within the required setbacks from the 86.9 contour line or normal high water elevation of Lake Conway, submitted by applicant Richard Anderson, located at 3625 Waters Edge Drive, Belle Isle, Florida, 32812, also known as parcel 20-23-30-1678-00-370.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. April?
Okay. I think it's find it hard to breathe in these.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my brain cells are just softer.
Well, you're re-inhaling a significant higher portion of carbon dioxide, so.
So if I seem funny, it's just because I'm
I
having.
thought it was the line of shots you Phillies were doing back and forth.
I need to let these people know I'm really okay. Just can't breathe.
Very astute.
Okay, good one. Yes, Chairman, thank you. This next application is a variance request. It is a request to allow a variance from the required rear building setback. It's located at 1632 Overlook Road. And the reason that this request is being made, the homeowners are in need of an ADA accessible bathroom. Their current home does not have one, and the best place to put one is on the rear of their property. Staff is recommending approval of this request based on what the applicant has submitted. A few things with that. If you take a look at the survey, which is the very last page of that packet, if they put the proposed ADA bathroom in the location they've shown, which is in the green, then the only setback that they're encroaching into is that rear setback. They have plenty of room on the side. If they were to put it on the other side, they would also encroach into that side setback and be closer to their neighbors. The size is reasonable for the bathroom that they need. So they're not asking for a variance that is more than what is needed. It's not a situation that they've created themselves, since they need to have this bathroom for their health, then that is why they're making this request. Based on this, staff does recommend approval, and I'm not sure if anyone here is to, you are, yes ma'am. And so I believe that the property owner is here to address any questions you may have.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, would you like to come on down and give us your name and address?
Right now, I live at 3711 Quando Drive in Conway East. But my husband and I would love to move back over here to, my daughter owned the house before.
Can you state your name too, please?
Jane Labby.
Okay.
It's for 1632 Overlook, and it has one bathroom, it's small. And I'm just anticipating, my husband's 85, and so I'm thinking we would probably need a handicap bathroom. Bathroom that you could roll a wheelchair into the shower. So I thought, you know, I can't imagine a house with just one bathroom, one small bathroom. You know, if somebody were to have wheelchair access.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and there is like it wouldn't be like there's a house right behind us. It's just a little pie-shaped piece of land back there that goes with the house closest to City Hall on Neela. It's right over here.
Okay. Great. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, yeah, the first question I have in regard to making this the minimum setback is why was the other corner of the house not suggested as the location of the bathroom? You know, because that would be set back farther and would encroach less.
The other side, no, the other side of the house is very close to that
You hit the
house
side.
next door.
Huh?
You're closer to the house next door.
Very close.
Well, it's still within the side set. You've got 8'6",
And it
I
would
believe
be-
is what it
And
is.
that's
So
where the kitchen is, and it would be like, I don't know how that would work, because it would be right up to the window of the kitchen.
well, I'm just asking the question.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So on the other corner of the house, that's the kitchen?
No, on the other place where we like to put it is a bedroom, so it would be right off the bedroom.
Okay, so the one that's illustrated here is attached to the bedroom.
Correct,
Okay, and so the other side of the back of the house is the kitchen?
correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So you actually probably have better availability of water services at that other location.
Well,
Yeah, but you gotta also deal with a little bit of practicality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Right.
off the
Okay.
bedroom, which is
Yeah.
where most people want to have their bathrooms.
Yeah.
and
Not
also,
walk
I agree.
across the house
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom.
the septic tank is over on that side.
Okay, good point.
That's a very valid point.
Okay, that was the question.
Your drain field's in the front yard, right?
I think the drain fields are in the back, and that might have to, I'm sure that's gonna have to be addressed. Probably have to put in new drain fields in the front
Yeah,
yard.
that's definitely something that would have to be looked at,
Yes.
because if the drain field's in the backyard, almost anything you add could interfere with the drain field.
Yes, I understand that, so like I said, I am anticipating that the drain fields will have to be put in the front yard now.
Okay, well, thank you. Is there any other questions? Was that you got a question, or was that you adjusting your glasses? Okay. Seeing no other questions, we'll close the public hearing. Come back to the board. For a motion, comment, questions?
No, I don't have
Did
a
you really have it
problem.
open for public? You were just getting heard.
I asked if anybody-
Oh, you did, sorry, I missed that. Okay.
Go ahead, Avery.
Oh, no, it wasn't me. It
No,
was,
I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I would imagine that her contractor would address the drain field and they need to rearrange it if need be. And that would be my only concern is those setbacks, but I don't have a problem with that bathroom being put there, as long as it's in the requirements of setbacks of drain field.
Okay. Chris, you got anything?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
Come on.
Yes. Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll read it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, case 2021-01-011.
Yes, sir. This case is a request for a variance to allow a fence taller than 6 feet to be located within 35 feet of the normal high water elevation. Additionally, along the portion that's not within that, to be taller than 6 feet, to have an 8-foot section. And then the third part of the variance request is to allow replacement of an existing fence that is currently in the front of the property. Their desire with that is to bring all the fencing up to a new condition, which is why they're requesting to be able to replace that in the front as well. This is the neighbor of a variance request that was approved by the board a few months ago. That was 6889. Thank you so much. And it abuts that property, and it's really companion to that variance application that was requested, in the sense that that property also has a fence and gates in the front and a fence along that property line. Staff recommends approval of this application based on the criteria that is provided in the code. It's a little different than just a straight variance for setbacks and some of the other things. There's an additional provision in the code that you can take into consideration different grades in property. You can take into consideration concerns of privacy, and those are two of the things that the applicant has mentioned in their request. Based on what the applicant has submitted, staff is recommending approval of this application. It does conform to the surrounding community, and the applicant is here to address her application and answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, for my own knowledge, tell me how many lineal feet we have of each height.
Of each type?
Yes. Height.
Let me open this up. For the 6-foot fence, there is the 35 feet in the rear of the property that would go to the seawall. And then there's 66 feet in the front of the property along the side, but it's still in the front. There's 66 feet of the 6-foot fence. In the middle of those two, where basically the two houses are on each side of the property, that's the portion that would be the 8-foot fence, which is 199 feet. And then the only thing that I believe is not shown on this, and Ms. Donovan can correct me if I'm wrong, there is also, and I don't have the dimensions, but the existing that's in the front that they want to replace with new fencing, that would be, is proposed for 6 feet as well, and would span the front of the property and the side, but I'll let her clarify that if I'm stating that wrong.
Okay. Ms. Donovan, come on down.
I want to thank you, board members, for hearing my
State your name and
variance.
address.
Deborah Donahue, 6904 Seminole Drive, Belle. Can I go ahead and
Yes,
read it?
ma'am.
Okay. I, Deborah Donham of 6904 Seminole Drive, am asking the board to approve a variance for replacing my existing 6 and 8 foot tall wood privacy fence along the length of my west side of my property. It joins the east side of 6838 Seminole Drive, the Barnes family. There's been a 6 foot tall wood privacy fence in my front yard for more than 25 plus years that I've resided there. There's a 6 foot tall gate and fence that is wood facing Seminole Drive. I think a brand new fence like I'm seeking is harmonious to the neighborhood because there are others in the area that provide privacy. When construction began at 6838 Seminole Drive, many loads of dirt were trucked in and the land was built up several feet higher than mine. Then a large home with a huge garage and swimming pool. This was allowed to be built past my home towards the lake. Pavers in the pool area and around the house has created a personal hardship for me and my privacy. When someone is out back in the side of that property, my 6 foot fences in the back and side is more like a 4 foot and less because of the buildup of the land next door. The first homeowners who built the house planted large bushes, which gave many years of privacy to both sides. The Barnes family just recently removed the large bushes, so now there's no privacy. This is a personal hardship for me and my family and my pets. The Barnes have added to this personal hardship by adding many cameras to the side of their house in front and back facing my property. Some have motion sensor lights that come on when I'm 30 feet onto my property. I would like to ask the board to approve a new fence of 6 foot out front, which is the front side of the property, and then where the building begins, 8 foot down most of the side, and then 6 foot to the 35 feet to the seawall, which is already existing. If I already have some 6 foot out front, 6 foot down by the lake, and some 8 foot fencing that is down the side. And have it go into the boathouse for my privacy and security. I'm wanting all new fence and hoping the height that I need to keep, that I'm not forced to just make repairs on the old fence. A new fence would look so much nicer for both parties to keep up in the character of the neighborhood. This hardship, I feel, was created when Belle allowed 2 homes to be built on one property, and one is in front of the other, and allowed the change in grading of the natural land height. I also wanted to read this. I have a right to a peaceful enjoyment of my property, and that is important to me. I cannot have that when I feel I'm being watched because of the placement of the neighbor's cameras. The 8 foot fence is the least variance possible that will allow me to feel a sense of privacy and peaceful enjoyment of my property. The 6 foot fence by the boathouse that is already existing is also important. It won't solve the problem completely, but at least it will help. I'm sorry, I just have a summary. I've lived on my property more than 25 years. The special conditions or circumstances of the property, 6838 Seminole, to be built up, therefore raising the grading over there several feet higher than mine and adding a pool and decking and detached garage, driveway, paved walkways, and again raise the surface levels. Recent removal of the bushes make it further taking away the privacy and effectiveness of my 6 foot privacy fence. And the motion activated floodlights and home security cameras activates when we move about our home and yard. I could repair my existing 6 and 8 foot fence, but a new fence would sure be a lot nicer. Robert Frost said, "Good fences make good neighbors." Excuse me. And if this variance is approved, hopefully it will help improve the relationship that we have with the Barnes family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The house next door is, I guess what I'll call, it's like a pink 2-story house?
Yes.
No, it's the one behind that.
It's the White House.
There were pictures included in that package of that big house, and that is not our home.
Okay.
It's on the other
Yeah, I
side.
thought the thing was confusing about this is the neighbor's property. Her property is here.
So are these people raising questions? Well, let's hear, do we have any questions from Ms. Donald? Right there, from the board.
Well, we've got these new batch of pictures that came in. Are these from you?
They're from me, sir.
Oh,
No.
they're from you? Okay, so we'll save that for the public hearing portion. Okay. Well, actually, as long as we got you here, these pictures appear to be taken from the neighboring property. Have you seen these?
No, I don't.
Okay, take a look. The key thing that I'm seeing there is I'm seeing lots of tarps and umbrellas and things like that, which I presume
They're
you've got
down
up-
now, and a lot of the trees have been cut because in anticipation of the fence, the shrubs and all those umbrellas that you see right there have been down.
Yeah, I guess the main question is if the
This is an
fence-
old tarp that the city had me take down when I was trying to get privacy from the cameras, is why, because there's,
Right, yeah, I'm assuming that by getting the fence, then you probably won't have need for all of the umbrellas and tarps and things, is that correct?
yes, I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
But the tarps were taken down right away. I don't know if Bob's got a picture of this packet of these. Did you have a picture of the pictures? Of those tarps that he sent in before, and I
Right, you didn't have a permit to put it up, so you had to take it.
yes, they were taken down
So this is,
a year ago or something, so.
this house is this house.
I'm sorry, the umbrellas were taken down a year ago on the tarp?
No, the tarps, I said, those tarp things were taken down last year sometime, those tarps that were up there.
Yeah, so the pink house is here,
Yeah, okay. I
the
got
house
it
is
back
here,
there.
yeah.
But those big group of umbrellas were taken down and a lot of the palm trees taken out in anticipation of getting in the fencing and working on the fence if I have to repair the fence.
Okay, well, that was my question.
Okay. Any other questions?
What are all the sandbag-looking things?
That's because he has piping hooked up to his guttering that floods my yard out, which I didn't put in this address because it didn't pertain really to my variance. But I'm going to have to do something and address to I don't know if it's planning and zoning or who I'd have to go to this coming summer, when all the rains are coming, because the water gets all the way up to my knees in my yard and it washes down all the leaves and everything to the lake, which I grew up on this lake. And it's not good for the lake if he had it to where he has some kind of good drainage to get it coming from his roof. You know, it goes from the gutters from his roof, from the house and a detached garage, and this black pipe like what you see in drain fields is hooked up to it and goes towards the fence line and comes over on my property. So it's to help slow it down. It doesn't stop the water, but it slows it down. I turned in some video, but evidently I didn't pan up to get the house in the background. It shows the wood fence, but I have to get pictures. You know, I had turned it into Mr. Francis, and he says that I have to have pictures of the house showing where the water's coming from, so.
So the water, I know it's not.
Clean water coming from his roof. He has a
Yeah,
nice
but is it
tile
just
roof.
coming from the downspouts, or is it actually running off from the land?
Most of it's coming from the downspouts. I'm sure some might be coming off from the land, but most of it's coming from the downspouts because he has it from the garage, the back of the garage, and the back of the house. And
I
it's
believe
at
that
least
you
several
said
places.
that when that house was built, that the land was raised up.
Raised up like a lot of these new
Yeah.
houses, and when the pool was built, they had to build that up really high. So when they're out by the pool, the 6-foot fence is just like you see people over here, you know, this is high.
Right, and well, it makes me curious as to what's going on at the property line. Is there a rapid drop in elevation, or is it?
It's more a little bit over, but, you know, there's pavers along the side, and so that's where even the guttering's sitting on top of the pavers, I guess, that guttering stuff, so,
Okay, well, so, yeah, I guess we'll leave that as a different issue.
yeah.
Okay, let's keep.
But that's what the
going forward.
sandbags are in the, you know, the photograph of mine that I sent to you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, let's go to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? I'm sure you guys do. Come on down.
Oh, sorry.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Carol Barnes, 6838 Seminole Drive in Belle Isle.
And Daniel Barnes from 6838 Seminole Drive in Belle Isle.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. Essentially, we really don't have any objections relative to a 6-foot fence across the entire lot line between the two residential locations. We actually think it would be a blessing for everyone involved. What we do have an objection to is the nature of the 8-foot fence in the section that was designated earlier. Essentially, Ms. Donham's rationale is really twofold, so far as I can see. One is related to privacy, and the other is related to an alleged history of a 25-year fence that's been erected for that period of time. Dan, I know you have some visuals that you can help with, so maybe we could address the privacy matter first? Or do you want to address the 25-year history?
Let's do the 25-year history.
Okay, the 25-year history of the fence.
It's been well established with the city that we have, through Mrs. Donham's evidence, provided you copies of surveys throughout the history of our home and from the purchase of her home back in 1999, that the only portion of this fence that stood in its current state is the rear 5 sections. If you can just take a look at the picture, the very, very top picture, it's the salmon section that you can see through the viburnum bushes when they were there, and that goes all the way back to the seawall. That is the only thing that showed that this fence is in its current state as when it was when the home was purchased by Mrs. Donham in 1999. The survey was submitted by her. We called that out in another hearing. We have since supplied several surveys that have been obtained on our property. 2010, when our home was built, that fence appears on the property line. In her 99 survey, this fence was anywhere from 2.5 feet at the front of the property. I believe it veered up to 6 feet as it veered back towards the lake, and then it came back to those 5 sections and then got to the property line. In 2015, when we bought the home, fence still appears, but now it's been moved. Portions of it in the front are now moved on our property. In 2020, we didn't have that survey in paper form when we went for our variance hearing in October. And the stakes were there. I spent a considerable amount of time with the surveyor as he did our property. And Mr. Colpitz, who owns Dodson Fence, one is a layman, one's an expert, has now said that approximately 70% of that fence is on our property. I have questioned when they have been repairing this fence. Back in 2017, they're doing it in the middle of the day. I asked a couple of simple questions. Hey, do you realize it's on the property line? You're digging posts. Do you know where you're going with it? I'm a little bit concerned about where it's at. I don't want this on the property. Mrs. Donahue explained to me that she pulled a permit, and it didn't make any sense to me at the time because there's no survey, nothing's marked. It doesn't rhyme out. I've got some experience with some of this. It doesn't make any sense. I call community development comes out, or court enforcement. And the court enforcement just basically says we're fixing the fence. There's nothing they're going to do. Mindful that I counted 7 posts that were redug and placed by Mr. S. Carson, who was an acquaintance of Mrs. Donahue. We hit a dead end on that one.
Okay.
20.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the privacy matter?
Yes, the privacy matter is, we're concerned about the habitual lack of upkeep on this fence. As you can see, we're going to go past the 2 pictures with the tarp that somebody noticed. By the way, all the umbrellas are not gone, so that's not correct. And I'm going to show you this picture, which is what I'm just going to call gangway. It goes back to my private law enforcement. That's what we call it. This is how close this fence, which is 6 feet in some sections and 7 or 8 feet in some sections, is to my dwelling. It's falling down. It's in no repair. We've been trying for over 5 years that we've lived there to get the city to do something about this, and nothing gets done. Concerned that it's near our air conditioning units. It's near all of our pool equipment. This fence is about ready to fall. Again, it's a blessing. They want to replace it. Please have at it. We're happy with that. But we're concerned about an 8-foot fence because this is a 10-year fence. Mr. Colpitz from Dodson Fence is telling me that the fence that she wants to put in is a 10-year fence. She's taken the fence that she has now and stretched it from 1999. From doing my math, we've gone 21 years. And the only reason why she's here to get a variance is because she has to move. Because our fence is going to go up and her fence is in the way.
So you're both putting up fence?
Yes, sir. Mine is done.
It's not complete,
Well,
it's been approved.
Yes, it's been approved. We're waiting for material.
You all approved it, and then it was, there were objections to that, so we had to take it to the board, and then the board approved it with some contingencies, call it.
We are essentially doing a 6-foot fence. It's a simulated wrought iron, it's made of aluminum, and when we get to the high water mark, we're moving down to 4 feet.
Okay, so your fence is, you can see through.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
correct. But it's consistent with the front of our yard,
And
which
it's
is
consistent with the neighbors
a gated area.
all the way through down the street.
It's an iron fence.
It's the only board-on-board fence that I know within 10 houses of us would be this one. But we don't have a problem with the 6-foot board-on-board fence. Again, this is demonstrating the lack of repair. We have appealed to the city. I have talked to Mr. Francis directly about this. We cannot get anything done. This is a picture that shows basically from the front of my garage, my 3-car unattached side load garage, to the street. Guys, go back to these pictures, please. This fence is a grade of my property. This fence does not sit below the grade of my property. It's on the same grade. So the claim that she needs an 8-foot fence because her fence is actually 4 feet or less is completely untrue. I've got pictures of this entire fence, front to back. Please, tell me where I'm wrong. Look at it. And you show me an area on here where this fence sits below the grade of my property. It does not exist. I thank you for whoever pointed out the umbrellas, because the umbrellas are not gone, they're still there. Some of them have been removed. You're absolutely right. It was done for the tree clearing, which we appreciate, because it's been another problem, but it's over. But I really want you to go to this picture here. There's 2 of them in series, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, hold on one second. Mr. Francis?
So, I don't know if Ms. Dunham said that the entire fence is 8 foot. I thought I heard her say when it gets to be 4 feet, it's, the first picture is that fence that goes down to the lake, not the entire 8-foot fence. That's what I thought.
My fence, their fence is going to be 6 from the back of my home to the lake.
Okay, but you're saying that if you look at that picture, it's not 4 feet like she said.
No, this isn't a 4-foot fence, you guys.
Right, I know, but what she's saying is that it's not, what I thought I heard her say was not that part that's 4 feet. The part that's 4 feet is from the lake up to.
It's the.
I supplied pictures too. I supplied
It's
pictures.
this section.
Wait. You don't have to argue with it. That's all I thought I heard her say.
No,
Okay.
this is a 6-foot fence, guys, and I will tell you that this fence, where she wants to put only, she's only gonna get 6, I think it's a high watermark issue, if I'm incorrect, please tell me, is she's got 7 feet here for half of this. So she's putting up umbrellas in a 6-foot section because she needs privacy. She's gonna lose part of a 7-foot fence, and this is gonna be, it's essentially 9 sections of fence, because I talked to Mr. Colvitz that she's gotta be at 6 feet. So it's 9, 6, they're 8-foot sections, whatever they are. It equates to 9 sections of fence, which goes to about the edge of the back of my home. It's gonna go to 6 feet. Now, that's an even exchange factor. This fence gets no higher, this fence gets no lower, but she's gonna lose a section of fence that she's made for that's 7 feet that I think I can count at least 4 or 5 sections here. So it's gonna go down even further. And so she's gonna tell me that she's gonna keep these umbrellas down that are 6 feet patio umbrellas. You can see them for privacy, but yet she's gonna lose a foot off of her fence for a duration of whatever the section of 5 times whatever the section of the fence is, I believe is 6 feet.
I think just advancing it in the spirit of moving forward. I think the last thing that we should show them is, so this is a picture, these last couple pictures are on.
It's a 9-foot fence.
It's on the other, her other neighbors.
The other
okay?
side.
The other side of her lot. That fence is a 9-foot fence.
There's a 6-foot
And you see the green
tarp.
tarp that's placed on top of that 9-foot fence for the purposes of
And
privacy.
this was here as recently as this weekend, Amy and John were right there. It's right back there, right off their backyard. So, guys, a 6-foot fence is not enough, because we have to put 6-foot patio umbrellas. An 8-foot fence is not enough. There's patio runners there right now. You want to get your cars, we'll go. We have a 9-foot fence on the other side, and she puts a 6-foot tarp on top of that. This is what we have to look at every day. Guys, I'm not throwing this around, but we got
You're saying that's a 9-foot fence on her east property line?
East property line with the other neighbors. So it's fair to say that when this 6-foot fence is done, these are walls are going to go right back up because it's not going to satisfy our 8-foot need. And this is what we're going to look at along with an 8-foot fence on the side of our home with umbrellas on it, which is now currently a 6-foot fence with umbrellas, because that's what she's done the whole time. We have appealed to the city. We get nowhere.
Okay. What's the fence height that she's requesting as you get closer to the water?
6 feet.
6 feet?
6 feet.
I thought we didn't allow something that high as you get closer to the water.
That's why it's a variance request.
Yeah.
4 feet is what's allowed by code. No taller than 4 feet.
Don't let me interrupt. We're supportive of that. We're not going to argue that. She can have that 6-foot section. That's okay. We're good with that. We're totally good with that. The other thing about the security cameras, guys, I just don't want this to go unaddressed. My security cameras do not pick up in her car. I'll go get my phone. I'll show you my security app. I look at every single activation on my security cameras that come in. There's been one day that they showed up on my security footage, and that was the day that they were putting the tarps and the umbrellas up on the side of my home. That's the only time it's ever happened. They're pointed in my yard. I've got them zoned out so they don't hit my yard.
Okay. Any questions for this person, this gentleman, and lady?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess the question, you've made a statement of what's going on. What do you see as a desirable outcome?
I think the desirable outcome is, I think the privacy is a terrific idea. Erecting the fence is a terrific idea. 6 feet is great. I think, quite frankly, if there could be some level of restriction around attaching things to this fence in alignment with the village ordinance, it would make for a better environment for everyone who comes down our street. That's what I think would be an ideal outcome. 6-foot fence, front to back, no problem whatsoever. And some level of restriction around attaching within 2 or 3 feet, according to the city rules, anything to that structure. Because otherwise, this is decreasing the value of my home and the homes all around me. You all, if you are on the lake, you've seen this. This has been like this for 5 years. And quite frankly, it had nothing to do with the viburnums, which we just took down maybe 8 months ago. They've been here for over 5 years.
And if I may, she put these umbrellas up because we were trimming these at the fence line. When we purchased the home from the Bodine family in 2015, that's the way they were maintained. They've always been at the fence line. Only at the suggestion of the police department, after we had several incidences of trespassing by Mr. S. Carson, they said, just let the bushes grow so they can't get into the property, and add cameras. So that's what we did. We added cameras, we let the bushes grow, as the police department suggested. The bushes, as I've been through this scenario before, kind of backfired on us. They grew out of control. We let them go, and then we took them down in preparation for conference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak?
Sure, I'll talk.
Okay.
I didn't fill out a paper.
Sorry, give us your name and your address.
Yeah, my name's Greg Oscarson, and I'm at 6904 Seminole Drive. And I was putting up a block wall fence all the way around the property, and the neighbor on the east side complained so much, I didn't finish putting up the 8-foot block wall on the west side of the property. But I put an 8-foot block wall fence up on the east side and in the center. It's not 9 foot, it's exactly 8 foot. I had it approved and all that stuff. Because at the time, you were allowed to put 8-foot fence up. And then you guys changed the ordinances to be 6 foot instead of 8 foot. And at the 86-9 water point, you used to have 5 foot, and so that's what the deal is with that. But so you guys have changed, And what I would really like to do is do the same thing, the block wall, and finish the job that I started. I have block across the front yard, I have block down the side yard, and I have block in the middle of the yard. And I'm the one doing the building. And this guy come out there when I'm trying to repair the fence, like a nice neighbor that he is, commenced a beating on me, and I'm much older than him, and he was kicking me when I was on the ladder, and because he's friends with the police, they did nothing. And he beat me off of his property, pounding me in the back.
Okay,
He's a very nice neighbor. So anyway,
What is
I wanted to
that?
just put the fence
Let's
up.
stay on topic here, okay?
I am, but I was
That's
just.
not on
he's-
topic.
Well, on topic was I tried to fix the fence, and he wouldn't let us, and all he does is water the fence, and he wants it to be destroyed, so it'd have to come down. He's, for some reason, I don't know what this problem is, but it would be nice if we could put the 8-foot fence up. And his cameras, he has a sensor, when you walk around the yard, and I told her, I said, there's no way that he's not doing that, and I'll be danged if he isn't. And I just took pictures last night and this morning before I left for work, and the sensor is 30 foot in the yard, you can measure it, 30 foot in the yard, his light comes on, and that's the light on the camera, and then they come running out the back door,
Okay,
7
time out.
o'clock, so
Time
he's-
out. Is there anything that you've got to offer to this of directly approaching the fence? I don't want to hear the
Yeah, I
horror
need 8
stories
foot,
and all
I need
that.
that, we need at least 8-foot fence to try to block them from staring at, he's so worried about people watching, you know, what's going on in the yard. I don't know what I can do. All right.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll close the public section and come back to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, if,
I don't know what to think.
I'm stumped.
I'm sorry, I had one more thing I forgot I wanted to.
No, ma'am,
Well, I just wanted to clarify
No,
what
ma'am.
Bob had said. Okay.
Thank you. Right now, the code says 6 feet fence, right?
That's correct. There are considerations where you can go to 8 feet. I was going to pull those up real quick. One of them, you can go to 8 feet without a variance if you get your neighbors that have an adjoining property corner with the fence line or within 50 feet of a proposed 8-foot fence, but you have to have written authorization from each of those neighbors. You can go to 8 feet if you are next to public property, such as a boat ramp or something like that. So there are situations where an 8-foot fence is possible without having a variance. But without those conditions, then to have anything taller than 6 feet, you'd have to come before this board for a variance.
So obviously, this board, I don't remember it, but I don't remember stuff half the time anyway. The 9-foot that's on the other side must have gotten approved by somebody.
It's hard to say without having that information in front of us. You know, if it was permitted a long time ago, retention requirements are 3 years, I believe. And at one point, Orange County did the permitting for the city. So somebody would have to research to really be able to answer that question.
And then if I heard correctly, you got the 9-foot fence on that side, and they're building an 8-foot concrete wall on the inside of that?
That's news to me. The only thing I know about is their request and what shows on the surveys. So there are 2 different surveys. One was prepared for Ms. Donham as a client of the surveyor. The one that it's my understanding, the survey that was agreed to for purposes of building both the fences is the one that's highlighted and was prepared for the barns. That's why you see 2 different, and if you look at the survey, it does not, Ms. Donham's survey, it does not call out the height of that block wall on the, where's the north area? On the southwesterly portion of the property, it does not state the height of that. towards the front, it does state a 6-foot privacy fence. And then on the northeasterly section, I don't see where it states the height of the fence. However, on the barn survey, I don't know what WF stands for.
Wood fence.
Wood fence, okay. So, thank you, Jen. On their survey, and Ms. Donham's as well, there is a call out of a 6-foot wood fence, but then on the Barnes' survey, there is a section that identifies an existing 8-foot wood fence. So there's 6-foot wood fence portions and an 8-foot wood fence portion.
But I'll ask this as a question, and I just want the answer, I don't want anything else. Then you're talking about going and building another concrete wall after you put up a new fence?
But if I can't, if they can't wait for me to put the wall up, then I have to put the wood fence up and then I'll put the block wall right next to it. But it's just a fence, it's considered a fence.
Right now, we're just going for the fence, and eventually, it could happen down the future, the fence would come down and the wall would be...
And I just match up to exactly what I have on the other side. It'd be the exact same thing. You look at the other side,
It's 8 foot on the other side of the wall.
It's 8 foot, then I kept stepping down, and in the front, it's only gonna be 4 foot with wrought iron on top.
If that does not meet code, it would have to be part of this variance request. So the variance request tonight is for...
Yeah, they haven't asked for it, I don't want to, I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I'm not clear, is this, the concrete block wall that you're talking of, what property is that on?
It's where the fence is.
It's on my property, and it's
Okay.
on the east side.
They would
The
come in
east side,
and put
okay.
that on
The
the
PVC
east
is the
side
road
of
fence,
this.
is
Well,
there's
the
PVC
survey
and
shows there's a block wall all along
They
here.
have a PVC fence on the other side of the block wall.
Okay.
And
And
none of
so,
these
so the
surveys
person,
have-
the person that you were having the trouble with in regard to the block wall was on the east side of the property?
Yeah, because when I put the wall up and he looks straight out, it takes his view of the lake away.
Mhm.
So I staggered it down for him.
Okay,
Down at the lake, one thing I just wanted to clarify was down, when I said 4 foot, and I guess Bob Francis didn't understand, I said when they're standing out by their pool, that's where the house was built up and the pool's built up, you know what I mean? When you're further on the property, it's way higher, and so is the home, this big 2-story home and the garage and everything. and the-
well, nowhere on any of these surveys do we have any elevations.
I can get elevations.
No, no. I just said it makes it look like, the 6 foot look like more like a 4 foot fence when you're standing by the pool in your yard.
If you need an elevation survey, I have one in my email that was done at the time of my survey, I had both done. It would just require me to forward it to Mrs. Yolanda, and she will print it, you can have it.
Not by
We
the,
ordered an elevation and a plaster.
April, have you seen that survey?
No, I've not seen that. If it's just for the one property though, and not for both, it wouldn't.
Doesn't really help.
Correct.
Yeah.
we're not saying dirt's built up by the fence, it's further over where the walkways are and the pool and the house.
Okay,
What's up higher in the driveway?
all right.
Well, it seems like we've got multiple issues here. We've got a drainage issue, which is at this point just something that exasperates the problem. I don't know what you would call it, potentially unkempt property, and also a fence that is possibly built on the wrong person's property. Now, if I understand correctly, this attorney question is if the fence belongs to whoever property it is on, doesn't it?
Not always. I mean, if you have a long-standing fence that someone constructed on someone else's property, it's possible that they claim adverse possession and claim it as their own if they're the one that constructed it and they're closing off someone else's property and fencing it in. But,
Doesn't that fall into the sort of squatters' rights thing, that it's got to be unknown encroachment for over 7 years or something like that?
right, that's what I'm talking about, but, I can't make that judgment. It's not
Right.
my call to make, it's not the city's call, that's a private dispute.
But if, let's say there's some semblance of us granting a variance of whatever it is, then when that fence comes down, aren't they then under the obligation that they have to reinstall it on their own property?
There should be a requirement that they have a survey that verifies that the fence goes on the correct property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that would be
That's what
a
we
given.
We would only want it that way.
So it's our understanding in the city that the contractor who's going to be installing the fences is installing on both properties. So it's not going to be different contractors. And so that contractor, he would pull the permits for each of the properties. It's also my understanding that they've agreed on the survey for the Barnes property that establishes the property line, meaning that that would recognize the encroachment of the existing fence on the Barnes property to be remedied by the installation of each of the new fences. So, it is, typically fences are built on a property line with the structural supports facing into the property that's putting the fence up.
Right.
In this case, logically, they would each have to be inset some to account for two fences on a property line.
Well, back up, you just lost me again. Why are we
Sorry.
putting up two fences?
Because they each want one.
Oh, that's right, they're putting up one too. Yeah, okay.
Okay. And so, if I understand correctly, that is considered an optimal outcome to end up with two fences?
Correct.
We applied for the variance, and subsequent to that, they applied to put a fence up. And we have no objection to them putting up a fence as well.
If I may, it seems to me that really the only dispute when you get down to it on this is the height
Right.
of whether certain segments should be 8 versus 6.
Correct.
And that's really what we should, in my opinion,
Yeah.
focus on. All that other stuff is extraneous and not germane at all.
Agreed.
I agree wholeheartedly, because the rest of it's really got nothing to do with what this variance is about. And under that scenario, here's my suggestion. I don't see anywhere where the 35 feet down close to the water is saying it's 4 feet. In fact, it's quite the contrary. It's saying here that it's 6 feet. I'm not comfortable with having 6 feet all the way to the water. So my suggestion would be the area that's in yellow down by the water becomes 4 feet. And it jumps to 6 feet where it turns orange and runs to the edge of the house. And the area between start of the house up to the garage can go to 8 feet, and then everything else going forward is at 6 feet. So that you have a little bit of privacy for both the barns and Miss Dahlem where the houses are, which seems to be where the problem should be.
I think I would beg to differ with that based on the location of all the umbrellas. It seems like they're looking for privacy in the yard proper.
Well, but it's not just, you look at the umbrellas, but you look at the other side and there's, a big tarp above the fence on the other side.
Yeah.
And if I lived in this house, I'd be upset about staring at all those umbrellas and everything myself as well. That's my personal hang-up.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
agree
mean
with
it's
that.
anybody else's. That's my suggestion.
I have to look at that sort
Mr.
of thing
Francis?
anyhow.
I just have a question. If that vinyl fence is 9 feet, why do you have a tarp up above that?
It's not 9 feet, and that's the neighbor's fence.
That's the neighbor's
But it's not
fence.
a tarp, it's a shade cloth, and it's been up there for years.
It's what?
It's been up there for a long time. There's that, it's a shade cloth that's been in the bushes for a long time.
I couldn't understand what kind.
Shade cloth, it's not a tarp. It's a shade cloth that people like to put in the yard, the green, and put on fences.
Looks like you have plenty of shade there without needing that tarp. But if you have a shade tarp, according to the code, you need a permit for that. Do you have a permit for that?
No.
Then you'll have to take it down.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is that the neighbors to the west would have no real problem with the fences as long as they don't have to look at the umbrellas and things anymore. And the indication is that the new fences isn't going to necessarily change the fence top height much at all. And so, you know, I'd like to say that, yes, you can go ahead and build the fence. You know, what I'd like to say is you can go ahead and build the fence, but you got to stop popping up all those umbrellas. So, and I don't know if we can, you can't really mandate that because, you know, you can put an umbrella on a table in your backyard and certainly doesn't require a permit or anything like that.
Yeah, it's tough, but maybe, and it's probably going to be difficult to enforce, but you may consider a condition that personal property stored on their property has to be set back a certain distance from the fence. You know, that's, and then, because it's not a structure, those are not structures, so they're not really attachments. They're really personal property being stored in the backyard. So I don't know what the appropriate distance would be. I'm not sure if that would solve it completely, but that's one way of trying to deal with it.
I have a quick question. Is, by her putting up an 8-foot fence, is that blocking your view?
Sorry, an 8-foot fence blocking the view.
Is the where she wants to have it 8 foot high, is that blocking her view in any way?
I think it's up to the back of the house, to the front of the house, right? So essentially, we only have 2 windows there. One is towards the lake, and then the side, which is our master bedroom, and one is in the closet. So it doesn't materially block the lake, to answer your question. Yes.
So what distance would 8 feet benefit her privacy and you're not being blocked from the view of the water? At what point?
Well, if she puts an 8-foot fence up on the rear corner of our house to the up front, there's no reason for us to even be in that segment. That's a very large piece of property of our residence. So the back of a 3-car garage plus the side of a 4,000 square foot home, and she's looking for an 8-foot fence there. Our concerns are the distance between that fence and our home and the lack of maintenance on the current fence that's there. And this is a battle we're going to have to fight again, and we're concerned about the 8-foot fence on our 6-foot fence and no maintenance, and then here we are 10 years from now with the same problem, and we can't get resolved from the current problem we have. So we're trying to avert problems 10 years down the road. Okay. Well, we're protecting our own property.
Okay, thank you.
So the 8-foot is really not the issue, you just want a smaller fence in disrepair?
No, the fence has to leave. It's in the way of the fence. So that fence is going to go down one way or another. We've already...
Right, but the fence that's coming back up again, whether it's 6 or 8, it sounds like your concern is more looking down the road of what the fence is going to be like.
Well, the 8-foot portion of that fence is going in the substandard portion, most of it, of our lot. It's less than 85 feet. So we will be looking at an 8-foot fence in the front of our home as we come through our driveway.
Okay, so front is the north side.
The front, I guess we would say, is the east, more like the east side. The east side.
Where's the street?
The street is, what I'm going to tell you is east. Well, no, I'm going to say it's north. It could be northeast. It's close.
Yeah, well, but the front is the side where you drive in. that
But
right?
that's where I'm
Property
saying,
line.
Okay.
Each property line. So when we walk out our front door, we're gonna essentially look at an 8-foot fence,
Uh-huh.
which is what we're doing now. And again, the concern is that not only will we look at an 8-foot fence, we'll look at an 8-foot fence that's gonna be on the fence. It's been done before, it's being done right now, and all of the umbrellas are now moved. They were moved where she cut stuff in preparation for a new fence, but she left the ones that didn't need to be moved right in place.
that's why I'm saying stop the fence at the garage. Then it doesn't show up in your front yard.
So you're looking from the back of our home to the back of the garage, through the distance of the garage?
I'm saying the 8-foot fence goes like from here to there. On the side of your house that you just said you don't
And
really
again,
use.
here's the only concern that we have, is that the fence that currently sits there is in no repair. And we tried to get the city time and time and time again. And again, we've been both going for it.
But if we grant a variance of some sort, you're gonna get a new fence there. Then you're worried about the 10 years down the road.
Well, I think that that's a bona fide concern. Because.
Well, I understand that. I understand that.
And so, and again, what am I gonna do with an 8-foot fence that's falling into my 6-foot fence? I'm 57 right now, I'll be 67, what am I gonna do? I mean, honestly, physically, I don't know. Hopefully I'm working, but I doubt it. So the question is I'm now gonna be back in the same position as I am today, and I'm gonna be battling to get things repaired, fixed, and it doesn't happen.
Mr. Francis, can you shed any light on this one?
Please.
I can't. I will say that these two neighbors really do not like each other.
I gathered that.
And what you're getting here is only a little bit of what we get a lot. And to be honest with you, and I share Chris's same sentiment, what's the difference if the 8-foot fence is in disrepair versus the 6-foot fence is in disrepair? It's in disrepair, so why does it matter that 2 feet, why does that 2 feet matter?
Because the clarify is that most 90% of the fence that's between the area that you're seeing is 6 feet. There is a small section that goes from about the end of my garage towards Seminole that does rise to the 8-foot level, but it's clear. And it's only for like 3 sections. But it's clear of the sides of my home. So if her 6-foot fence fell today, there's a good chance it's going to hit the side of my house. It's guaranteed it's going to hit my air conditioning units, it's going to hit my pool heater, it's going to hit my pool filter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, an 8-foot fence is going to obviously do that. It's going to be more cumbersome because.
But you have no fence up there now. You have no fence there now.
There is a fence there.
You, Dan Barnes, has no fence there now. And there's only one fence there now.
Correct.
Her fence.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you get your fence up, then she has her fence up, then I don't see how then the fence will hit your house.
Right, your fence will
Compromise
stop.
my fence, it's a pretty heavy
If it
fence.
compromises your fence, that's a different story.
Yeah, well,
It'll hit the fence. That's-
sir, whether it's an air conditioning unit or it's a fence, there's still cost bearing for both. My air conditioning units are several $1,000, several subjects of
And,
fence.
and the other issue that we have is, honestly, is that they are in a difficult position to repair the fence because they cannot get permission from Mr. Barnes to go on the property to repair the fence. They have both, from what I understand, they have both trespassed each other, and therefore nobody could go on anybody's property. And that's a very difficult thing when you're trying to repair a fence that the smooth side is out. So when he said their fence is in disrepair, it has been, the city could go down and tell her to repair the fence. In fact, the city has gone down and told her that her umbrellas cannot be touching the fence. So she's probably moved them back about 2 feet, or she had. And so, just like the attorney said, even if she puts up an 8-foot fence or the 6-foot fence, if she puts umbrellas up in her yard that are not touching the fence, how can code enforcement enforce that issue? I don't see how we can. But again, I would say that they're in a difficult position if they try and get on the property, to repair the fence, and then they're arrested for trespassing. That's just how it is. And so that's part of the reason why they can't repair the fence, and that the fence is in disrepair.
Yeah, and I would think that having a secondary fence there is just going to make that much more difficult to repair the fence. That's,
Well, when this all first started, my suggestion to both of them was to put up an 8-foot vinyl fence, and that was declined.
yeah.
Okay,
The way I do this is I would build a 10-foot hedge.
I'll just add one more thing because it has to do with the privacy issue. I accepted Mr. Barnes' invitation about 1.5 years ago to go down and look at his property and look at his cameras. And I could not see where those cameras were pointed over to her property. I do know that as they go down the side of his house, you get just a little bit, you see the fence and just a little bit onto that property, but I did not see that as an intrusion at all. Now, unless he's moved them, I didn't think that there was any problem with how his cameras were fixed because they look down both sides of the side of the house, and you're always going to get that little, I think that little bit of view of the fence, but it's not like his cameras are pointed directly down at her property. They go on the sides of the house for his security.
okay, I think we beat this to death here.
Can I ask one quick question?
No.
Okay. I can't stick my tongue out at you right now.
Oh, you can.
Is this done getting a new fence?
I'm sorry?
Are you getting a new fence?
Yeah, I was using the same fence company that he's using, that's hand building the fence, so it'll be a
Thank
strong
you.
fence.
If that's the case, and there's a discrepancy on the lines, it should be corrected at that point.
Right,
Yes.
it will.
They've already agreed to use the
Okay, so
one
the
survey.
the lines are corrected, if they're not correct. I don't know why there can't be a section, a small section, to block out whatever needs to be blocked out for 8 feet, and then 6 feet and 4 feet.
That's where I'm at. Can I make a motion as chairman?
Sir? Yes, sir.
Then I'd like to move that we approve the variance with the following changes. As I've marked here, from there to there is 6 feet, from there to there is 8 feet, 6 feet, and when you get close to the lake, it drops to 4 feet.
Okay.
Get that for the fire.
Yeah, and also, in addition to that, I'd like to make sure that the property situation is resolved between the fences, and your fence is on your property and your fence is on your property. And as it relates to privacy factor, I think everybody's entitled to their privacy. But I also feel that maintenance is a big deal. I understand your concern about the fence and dealing with this again in 10 years. So, Mr. Francis, I'd like to figure out a way that code enforcement can go out and make sure that these fences are being maintained
Specifically.
to give them the power to enforce that.
And again, if, I don't know if it'll be easier to maintain the fence this way, but our ordinance calls for when you put up a fence, the smooth side would be out. Maybe in this case, if the smooth side is in, then it would be a lot easier to maintain from their property.
And it's gonna be vinyl, not wood.
They're gonna have a wood fence.
Yeah, no, as a property, I don't like switching it around.
I maybe just want to bring back to a point of order unless this whole long thing was your motion.
That was all my motion. And whoever's gonna second it's gotta repeat it.
Well, but they have to be on board before we don't want to make a motion that if that's not, I mean, Is that
I
workable?
don't think it's gonna be acceptable to either one.
I think, sir, I think we can. I can solve it. I promise. Give me 2 seconds.
Fire.
Do the 8-foot fence, give them the 6-foot fence at the back. Don't do the 4. Do the 6 from the back of our home to the back, give them the 8 along the side of our house. We'll keep kicking on the city. When that day comes, it's no choice, I get it. It's a happy compromise. No, and no umbrellas.
We can't regulate against no umbrellas. We can't, I mean, it's no different than if you're sitting out by your pool and you put up an umbrella on the table by
Our
yourself.
city ordinance is against that.
We could prohibit the placement of personal property affixing upon the fence, or we could require personal property not to be stored or installed within so many feet of the fence as a condition. Now, the enforceability of that condition is difficult because of access issues and our code enforcement officers' inability to access backyards, but that could be a condition. So we can't
I think
ban
a 4-foot
umbrellas.
backyard is a good solution. I don't want to offend anybody. I think that we're going to get that 6-foot, we encourage it. And we'll concede the 8-foot for the duration of the home. And I go back down to 6.
And I will say that the board has allowed a 6-foot fence to go all the way to the water
Okay.
on other properties.
That's fine, then. It's, so it's 6 foot all the way to the water.
Well, I've got another question on that, is that when you actually put this together so you have a meaningful survey, you notice that this place where they start with the 8-foot fence is actually the front of the applicant's house. So what you're doing is you're saying you can have an 8-foot fence at the neighbor's house, but not in front of the applicant's house.
I'm more concerned about the 2-story house overlooking into the neighbor's yard. Here you have nobody looking into the side of their
So,
house.
yeah, the 8-foot fence won't do anything for a second story.
I understand.
There's no window there. There's no window up there.
Yeah.
On that side of the home.
100% cinder or something.
Okay, so there's a motion out there.
Well, let's make sure we understand it, because there's been a lot of discussion. So what is, you want to make the motion?
Where's my sketch?
Yeah, and if we could clarify, because your line is, do you mean for it to be at the corners of the house?
Of the house, right.
Okay.
I wonder if they need to agree with where you put the line.
You may want to show it to them real quick.
You might suggest in your motion that both parties have accepted the survey by the farms.
What he said.
You should have asking him what he wants, but by the pool is where most of the, which overlooks the boathouse in the back, and to clarify about the 4 foot, and he even wants the 6 foot down by the boathouse, there's actually a seawall there, so that's why it was allowed to have, the fencing always went all the way down there and goes to the boathouse, so you know what I mean, it doesn't go like taper down into the water or anything like that. A seawall is there, and then us closed and enclosed the boathouse. But the privacy is a lot by the swimming pool at the back of the house, and the fact that their windows are all, it's all open on the back side, and it overlooks when you're trying to walk into my back. Their back house was allowed to be built further in. Mine is built, it's the oldest one on the street, it was built in the 40s, and it was built on a 100-year flood plan, so I don't know how they've allowed all these new houses. They weren't supposed to be built further back, so it's back further, so it kind of looks into the property. True, there's no side windows on the side of their house, but the back,
Okay, so we're gonna extend down the 6 feet to the water. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, and then the 8 foot, I was saying more by the swimming pools and all back there, where the swimming pool is.
That was never proposed on the original plan.
Yeah, it's on there. It's on the, it's up to the 35 foot.
No, we're gonna stop the 8 feet at the house. No, otherwise, all we're doing is now we're negotiating that posture, and not doing it, so.
Do you want to
That's
see?
where the main privacy
Yes,
is.
There's no structures or anything down there.
Yeah, there's the boathouse where we spend a lot of time, and we enclose the boathouse. And the backyard.
The boathouse is out in the water, it won't be impacted by the fence.
So I'm saying the back of the house and the whole backyard, my whole backyard
Yeah, so she's worried
The
about this
pool
area.
overlooks the whole backyard where they're standing under the pool, and the 6-foot fence is more like a 4-foot, is how, where Francis got me saying 4-foot fence. When they're standing around by the pool or outside or walking on the walk path to the boat dock, it's more like a 4-foot fence.
Are you guys all right with that?
No. We would agree to the 1-foot fence, that's a privacy issue, which you can say something from a block wall or one window looking at a car. We'll give that 8-foot there, but we don't want to extend past the residents. Guys, again, the pictures show that fence is on grade with my lot, so the 4-foot thing I don't understand, because if there's any elevation by my pool, it's like 60, 70, 80 feet away from the property. I can't see that far unless I'm trying to.
What, Ray?
I do. Unfortunately, we all live in the neighborhood, and we're in a neighborhood. And, you know, there are so many people moving to the state of Florida, we can't handle it. We got building going on all over the place. And we have neighbors. You can have privacy, but it's not going to be perfected, I don't think. I think we might be able to agree with A to Z, this height fence, and then, I should have said A to S, and then S to Z, another height fence. I don't know what part of your home you really want to be quote-unquote private. Maybe there's a compromise, I don't know. But we live in a neighborhood. You're gonna see your neighbors, and you are too. And I think we can be considerate of each other just because we're decent human beings. And, you know, be cordial, be considerate. If you wouldn't want that done to you, I mean, it's just like doing to others as you would have them doing to you. And it's really a compromise. Whether you like each other or not, it's irrelevant. You live next to each other in a community. You chose to live here. And a lot of people find themselves, they don't like it enough to move. If you don't like it enough to move, then so be it, I don't know. But I am sure that there can become a compromise with your privacy, with a level of height and lower fences. I know there can be a compromise, because it's all possible to do that. Do you think you can? Yeah? You think you can reach a compromise?
I was hoping there'd be compromise because of by the pool, you know, that, like I said.
Yes and no, of course.
Overlooks the yard, so, my backyard, you know, where we sit and everything, so.
Okay.
It's been a problem since we noticed the bushes out, but.
Okay,
Well, it's been the main problem and why we wanted it, because it's.
From what I've heard, apparently, they don't have any videos in your yard. You may think they do, but they don't.
They sent them in. You can see it. They sent it to code enforcement. They have it way in the yard. They have it, the camera shut.
Okay.
It's there. It's on your stuff.
Okay, we got a motion on.
Yeah, can we move?
Dr. Hobbs, what'd you say?
No, I think we beat this horse to death.
Right, is there a second?
A clarification on the motion, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Does the motion include replacement of the existing fence along the front of Ms. Don's property?
When you say the front, where?
It is actually in the front entrance to your property, is that correct?
The side.
Just the side, not across the front?
Yes, everything
Yeah.
is.
So everything that's highlighted here is all you're asking for?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
Okay.
we're just, we might say just.
Are you asking for the front gate too? On these pictures, you have number 1 is the front gate that comes across, is that what you're also asking?
No, I wasn't asking for that.
If that's the case, then that cannot be part of the permit application, or I will not be able to approve it. So just to clarify that.
Yeah.
And if I could clarify, just for the record, because I don't want to get in the middle of a war based on interpretation. The 8-foot section is to span from the front corner of the Barnes house to the rear corner of the Barnes primary structure. We call it the principal building.
Yes.
Okay.
I think just to clarify, she should come up.
Just to clarify, do you want to come up and see the drawing, what we've marked up?
Well, it sounds like you're going with what he wants, so.
That's a detached garage, right?
It's a detached garage. There's like a-
So where I have these, it's an 8-foot fence back there, if you're not including that.
It's like a covered breezeway.
Because from the front of my building.
If there's a breezeway, it makes your garage part of the principal structure.
And it's perfect.
It's connected, right?
Yes, connected.
I agree.
So it would be, I believe it's this line, I believe that's the driveway. So it would be from here to here. The patio and the pool area is not considered part of the principal
From
structure.
the front yard to the back is 4-foot drop.
So
This is already where we had 8 foot. so-
This is the 8-foot section from here to here, and then 6 feet from here to this front highlighted line. And then 6 feet from the rear of the primary building to your seawall.
Yes, I see that.
So they're making you take out where the 8-foot fence is
We already have 8 foot
We already
here.
have 8 foot there.
See right here, we have 8 foot.
That's existing 8 foot already.
I'm not
Okay.
someone.
That's what you're getting. Do you want it or not?
So we have to take down the 8 foot that we have already.
Yes, sir.
Move it back.
You got to take the whole fence down and put up the new one.
Isn't there an appeal thing I would have to do or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's
ma'am.
always a
You're
few.
welcome to appeal to the city council.
And this is just a motion, it hasn't been decided yet.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Next item.
Okay, so. Appeal period, you want to know about that?
Oh, I apologize. Just to clarify, as a procedural matter, a variance that's approved, there is a 15-day appeal period, so no permits can be pulled during that time in case it is appealed to city council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
April?
Yes, sir. The final item on the agenda tonight is staff initiated with respect to the city sign regulations in chapter 52 of the city code. This was brought about because the city had to issue notices of violation to several property owners within the city for political signs that remained after the election period. And Mr. Francis can speak more to it than I can, but just to let you know what happened. It was decided in consultation with the city attorney that the current sign regulations were outdated and could be deemed to violate law based on new law that was passed with respect to regulation of content, which is illegal. So these amendments to the sign regulations update the code with respect to temporary signs and clarify definitions for temporary signs and being able to regulate the duration of signs placed, but it does not regulate content. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have with respect to the revisions.
Do you have any questions for April?
The real estates are good. Real estate signs.
We tried to get those all bounced, but it didn't work.
Especially your open house signs.
Oh, you guys.
Okay, hearing no questions?
Well, no, I have questions, it's just, I'm looking at, I guess it's page 7, the paragraph about in the middle of it, and it says, each property in the city shall be allowed 12 square feet of non-illuminated temporary signage on each street frontage. So that means if you're on a corner, you could have potentially 24, is that correct?
Yes.
Such temporary signs would be where owner is actively attempting to sell or lease property, either personally or through agent, or is displaying signage that is supporting an election or political purpose, or for free expression purpose. Temporary signs shall not individually exceed 4 square feet. Okay, 4 square feet is 2 foot by 2 foot, which is roughly the size of one of these panels, probably a little bit shorter. And, well, I guess the signs that, the zoning signs are a little smaller than 2 foot by 2 foot. They're, what, 2 by 18, I believe, something like that?
I don't know.
18 by 20, maybe? 18 by 20 seems to be a standard.
18 by 20, well, anyhow, those are considerably smaller than 2 foot by 2 foot. And in the case of elections and things, one of the things that is fairly typical is banners or flags, which nominally, in the last election, most of these flags were 3 foot by, 3 foot by 4 foot, which makes the flag 12 square feet.
Flags are not considered temporary signs, so flags are flags, according to the code.
But didn't it say that if it has political stuff, then it's a sign? I know the old code said that for sure, is that a flag with a political slogan on it or supporting a candidate was not a flag, it was a banner. And I noticed that you didn't really have much of a, and so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if you have a flag with a political slogan on it, where does that fit?
Under flag.
Under flag, okay. And a flag is not in this code? I think there was a thing that said what a flag was, but there's nothing that limits.
Definition of a flag,
but there's nothing that limits the size of a flag.
So
flags were not included.
this ordinance is not amending the entire sign code, just the temporary sign portion. So you're not seeing the other parts of the code in this ordinance that haven't been amended. There's a 52-31 that talks about flags being exempted no more than 15 square feet surface area in residential areas that are permitted. And there are other regulations in the code that are not being affected by this ordinance, so you're not seeing them.
Well, let's see, what was the number again?
52-31, is the one that's referencing exempted signs. 52-31.
Gotta be in here somewhere. Okay, sign requirements, prohibited signs. So you're saying 52-31 is not?
We're not changing that. There is a reference to flags in subsection 8.
Prohibited sign. Tree flags will be displayed. So, am I correct then, that according to this, if there was a political event and you had political flags, you could have 3 flags up to 15 square feet each, and nobody's going to say boo about that?
That's what the code says.
Okay. Okay.
Now, whether we're right or wrong is what the code says.
Right, yeah, well, I got cited for having a flag.
Oh,
If that's
Well,
something,
don't have one anymore,
Yeah.
we won't have to work.
Well, that was the issue, is because it didn't seem like I should be.
Well, are you talking about the American flag?
No, I'm talking about a political flag. That's what,
Then you must have been voting for the wrong candidate.
right, there's always that possibility. Let's see. But there was, under political,
This is an exemption.
I think that there was under political saying that a political, where the heck is that anyhow? You know, that a flag with a political slogan or something like that was not considered a flag. And I'm trying to find where that is in here and figuring out if you've actually changed that or not. So corner lot change, and that would be under. Well, actually, you had this section crossed out here. Oh, that's another thing. Let's see, you, on the temporary signs, in the old one about installation, you've got political campaign signs shall not be erected more than 90 days before the date of the election or referendum. But in the new one, it just says 30 days, I believe.
So if you don't like it, then you can change.
Right, yeah. And, you know, if following the last election, I think that political momentum was running for in excess of a year prior to the election. And so the question is, you know, and then the question is when is the referendum? Is the referendum on voting day, or is it a month before voting day? When is it, when they send out the ballots? You know, it seems like that it's possible that you may not even be able to be allowed to put up a political sign until voting has already started in some cases, depending on what happens to our voting regulations. So it seems like there needs to be some clarification on that.
The way the proposed code reads, it's 30 days counted from the election day as the event. So it is very restrictive, and it's much more restrictive.
Right, but when is the election day?
Well, usually it's a defined date on the count, like November 7th.
Let's say the presidential election was November 3rd, right?
Yeah, so that's...
When did voting start?
Well, it's defined as election day. It doesn't matter when, we're not talking about early voting. Election day
Right, but the thing is that the purpose of the political signs is theoretically to influence voters. So not being allowed to put them up until after voting has already started doesn't make any sense.
I'm not arguing with that point. You asked what does it mean then?
So the thing is that we need to change this to refer to the first opportunity for voting on the referendum, at least. And then I think that the 90 days should be back in there at least also. So those, and then the other question is there a reason? I did bring an audio or a visual aid here. This isn't, well, I'll take it out here.
Thank you.
This is a 12 square foot sign. Is there any reason why someone can't have a temporary sign on their property that's that large if that's the only one it is? They're not that big.
That is big.
Huh?
That's huge.
That's huge.
Okay, well, I'm just putting it out there, you know, you guys make your own decisions. So, but those are the primary issues that I have with this, is that, and it appears that you're saying that according to this, that a flag is a flag, it doesn't matter what's on the flag. Is that correct? Because I know in the old code, it did matter what was on the flag.
Which is probably the reason why we're going through this again. And if there's something that is content-based in the flag code, then we would probably have to change that also.
Right, yeah, and I'm looking through here trying to find that, and for some reason, I'm not finding it.
If I can help, David, I don't see anything, the only thing, I see the definition of flag.
Right, which it says it's fabric.
Uses some advice. And then the other place that it shows up under the sign regulations as an exempt sign from the, it's a flag specifically is called out as an exempt
Sign
from these regulations. It's not a prohibited, nor is it defined under political. So if you have a flag, but it's a political sign, and it's
Yeah,
no
I
longer
guess
a flag.
this is probably the one that I'm seeing is on page CD 52-52:4, bottom of the first column, is political campaign sign means a sign advertising a candidate, political party, ballot issue, or political issue to be voted upon in a local, state, or national election or referendum. So that makes no reference as to what it's made of.
Right, correct.
And so that makes a flag a political sign.
Well,
And has that been changed?
under the technical definition in the code, a flag is something that signals someone. It's not a pendant for the purpose of saying a political statement.
That would make the American flag not a flag then, because you're not really signaling someone with an American flag.
Right, and the American flag is protected under federal law, I believe, is that correct? So this code is not calling a flag anything other than something that signals, like if you're moving traffic or something like that. So it's not the definition of a flag, such as the American flag or any other type of message conveyance. It's purely for signaling something.
I think it's something to consider, what your point is. I mean, it's...
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is what is the definition, you know?
Why don't we define it?
Is a political flag a flag, or is it a sign? Or is it a political sign according to the new regulations?
Well, you could make if you don't want to get rid of the...
Basically, it's really ambiguous at this point, and we want to get it resolved.
You could have a separate definition for a political flag.
What would you like it to say? The parameters.
Why don't we table this and give David some time with April?
Well, the unfortunate thing is I did write this all down and I forgot to bring it.
Yeah, and let's give them some time that they can kind of talk through some of this.
Well, let's see, projecting sign, real estate sign, roof sign, rotating sign.
I like that idea, Randy.
Okay.
Clark, does that work with your time frame?
Well, it doesn't really matter now because we rescinded all the notices of violation.
Why is that?
Because we didn't want to face a legal challenge of a content-based sign.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there were no flags involved.
Gotcha.
well, if there were no flags involved, then I shouldn't have gotten a citation.
No.
This is personal, that's what it boils down to.
But,
Yeah, I
no,
understand.
no, because I had 2 signs and a flag, and they said that's too much. So,
Okay, then I make a motion, we table this until the next meeting and give David and April some time to sort
where
through
did
it.
that happen?
Second.
Okay.
Will be,
I cannot author
Yeah, I would
this.
suggest work either with me or through the city attorney.
Okay.
Okay?
I am not astute with
it
that.
makes sense to work with you and
It's
then
just
you
your
work.
mask talking, come on.
Okay, is there a second?
I did.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yolanda's got her hand up.
Any other business?
Yolanda.
Yes, ma'am.
I sent you an email from Andrew Thompson. He is at a deposition, that's why he couldn't attend Zoom, and he asked for an excused absence.
We have a motion to excuse Andrew.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.